Hey guys, it's Charlene. Today I'm going to be showing you how I made this really cute Christmas card using the Santa's Helpers stamps and dies. So I'm starting out here with a piece of white cardstock and I have some Distress Oxide and Tumbled glass. I'm using this to create a sky background. So I'm going to just go back and forth all over my cardstock until I get a nice layer of ink on there. And once I have that done, then I can go ahead and do a little bit of distressing to it by adding some white pigment ink that I have sprayed with water. And I just have a fan brush and I'm going to dip it into the pigment ink with the water, and then I can tap the brush in order to get the ink all over the background. This creates kind of a nice snowy looking sky, and it's going to look perfect with our little elf in front of it. The Santa's Helpers stamp set has a lot of cute different stamps and sentiments in it. I am going to be using the large stamp with the Christmas tree and the elf, as well as the North Pole sign. So I'm going to stamp these in some alcohol marker friendly ink. Going to just make sure I get a nice coating on there before I stamp them down. These are so cute. I love these little elves, and the sentiments are really cute too. I like the one that I pick out. So once I get those stamped down, I can go ahead and color everything in with my alcohol markers. For my tree, I'm using some YG03, G14, and G07. I like to do the dark around the edges of the tree and then blend that out with my mid-tone, which is the G14, and then come back in the center with the YG03. And that yellow-green, it really adds a nice little pop and dimension to your tree. You would think it might make your tree look too yellow, but I think it just adds a nice little bit of dimension and makes it look more varied in the colors of the tree. Once I get the YG down, then I can go back with my mid-tone, the G14, and kind of add a little bit more shading here and there. I'm not doing very specific shading on this image. I decided I sort of wanted my lightest parts to be towards the center, rather than doing any kind of shading with like the sun shining down from the sky or something like that. I just wanted them to look kind of like they had a nice little glow to the centers of them. So for my elf outfit, I'm using some R14, R27, and then some YG06 and YG09. Now, I kind of went back and forth. I wasn't sure where I wanted to put what color. At first, I was going to leave his arms bare, and then I decided that it was probably cold outside, so his little arms needed to be covered up with sleeves. So I went back in there. For his shoes, I used some E15 and some E18, and then I put a little bit of cool gray on his belt buckle and his shoe buckles. I think I used C1 on those. Now for this first present, I'm using V15 and V17 to color in the box. For the second present, I am using B00 and B02. And then I go back in and I use some BG15 and BG49 for the ribbon on the purple box. And I use some G00 and G02 for the ribbon on the other box. For the tree stand, I'm using R35 and R37. That's a little bit more of like a cherry looking combination, which is nice. For the skin, I'm using E50, E53, and R20 for the cute little cheeks. For the hair, I am using E57 and E59, some nice dark browns. And then for the North Pole, I'm using R14, R27, and C1, C3, and C7. For my ornaments, I kind of went with a rainbow and I used two tones for most of them. For the red ornaments, I'm going to be using R14 and R27. For the orange ornaments, I'm using YR02 and YR04. For the yellow, Y02 and Y08. For the green, I started out using YG06 and YG09, but at the end I do go back over everything with YG03 because I felt like the green needed to be a little bit brighter. For my blue, I used B24 and B28. And then at the end of this card, I am going to use some glossy accents on top of all of those ornaments to really give them some dimension on the card. Then I can cut those out, and I'm going to use the A2 rounded rectangles to cut out that piece we colored earlier. And I'm also going to be using some of the new Snowbank Hill Edgers to cut out a few more in white. You're going to see where I'm going with that. Next, I'm coming in here with these special delivery stamps. I wanted to use the snowflakes from this stamp set to really create some pops of white on that background. I'm coming in with the 2 snowflakes and just using some white pigment ink here and there. This gives kind of a faded look with the pigment ink, which is really nice. You do want to let it dry for quite a while though before you move on to the next step. Now, before I started putting my card together, I did want to go ahead and stamp my sentiment. This says holiday wishes filled with elf kisses, which is really cute. And I'm going to be using a piece of this red paper from the Brights 6x6 paper pad. I cut it down so that there's about 1/4 of an inch border around my A2 sized card panel, which is 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. And so I'm going to go ahead and adhere that first. You're going to see once I put that die cut, that A2 rounded rectangle die cut down, just the corners are going to peek out of that red striped paper. So it's going to add an interesting look of dimension behind the card. Next, I can go ahead and glue that piece that I cut using the Snowbank Edger. And again, I took an A2 rounded rectangle and cut it out in white cardstock. And then I cut 2 pieces using the Snowbank Edger. Now this top one where I have my sentiment, I can go ahead and pop it up with some foam squares, and that just makes it look like there's a couple of different hills of snow on the front of my card. I think this scene looks really sweet and cute. It's going to be a perfect spot for our little elf stamp to live. Now that I have that done, I can use some liquid adhesive here to go ahead and adhere the whole thing down to the card base. I wanted to get each piece put together separately so it would be a little bit easier to put them together once everything was ready. Now all I have to do is go ahead and add my little stamps on there and some embellishments. I did cut out another die cut of the little elf piece, and the reason I did that, you can see I cut the bottom. It's because I want my tree and elf to be overlapping that back snowbank, so I want to be able to glue it directly to the card, but I didn't want it to have any bumps in it or any line markings. So I went ahead and glued that to the back of our colored piece, and now I can glue the whole thing down directly to the card. See, so it won't cause any issues where that snowbank is. Again, using some liquid adhesive, I'm just going to glue on the parts where the extra die cut are, so that way I don't have any issues with the bottom trying to glue somewhere. And I get that down, and then I can go ahead and adhere my North Pole. Now I just have it there right now for placement so I could see where I want to put my elf, but I do go ahead and put some foam tape on the back of it. That way it will be popped up and it's going to be adhered to the front snowbank. So that just adds a little bit more dimension to the card and makes it really look like there are 2 different snowbanks going on there and makes it look really cute. Off camera, I added the glossy accents and a little bit of white gel pen to finish off my card. Please be sure to hit the like and subscribe as well as the notification bell so that I can continue bringing you more crafty content in the future. Until next time, happy crafting.